Someone asked, how long do I have to do frequency work in order for my life to substantially change?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it really depends on who you are. So if you're someone like Tia, it's like instantly. And some of your friends, it's like happening really quickly.
Yeah.
So what I would say determines how quickly it changes would be things like how much people hang on, right, to their identities, stories, beliefs, conclusions, assumptions, all that stuff. Like we're like, oh, I don't want to let that stuff go. It takes a lot longer. How strong people's rule sets are. Like, and that comes from lineage and culture and also accountability. So being able to see those rule sets, to watch your own behavior, to see how you're contributing and where the distortion patterns are running within yourself. If you're not doing that, it takes longer. Like, honestly, if you're not being self-aware, it takes longer.
Yeah.
And if you are willing to do the work and look at yourself, it's way faster because you can spot it. And again, as we just said in that previous question, then you're empowered, right? And then you can move through things a lot more quickly. So I would say the answer is it depends. But if you have those three things, and also the fourth thing, which is hard for people sometimes, is fear, right? Because they have this fear of the unknown. So they like stop themselves. Yeah. However, if you release more and more distortion patterns, that fear drops. It just starts to happen.
Yeah, it almost becomes like excitement because the unknown is potential.
Yeah, exactly.
Limitless potential. That's exciting instead of scary.
Scary, yeah. And I would also say that at some point in the journey, when your frequency resonance gets high enough and you're not just being like overcome by like so many distortion patterns, it changes. And you start, instead of just being victim to your distortion patterns, you can start to hunt them, right? You're like, okay, right? That's what you did with your distortion pattern that you just described. You're just like, I see that thing and it's going to get out, right? So,
so the willingness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great.
So.
Thank you. Do I have to do frequency work forever, or can I stop at some point? Is this like going to therapy for life? I love that.
That's hilarious. Okay. Well, you can stop whenever you want, is what I would say. Okay. So you get off the train. I mean, I'm not dictating that at all. This is about you and your journey. Okay. So Karen is not suggesting that you have to stay for any particular length of time. Most people, when they begin, start for a particular reason that's physical, right? Like, I want to fix my relationship. I want to deal with my scarcity issues. I have a health thing that I want to deal with, whatever, right? There's some like physical thing. And when they start, they really get going. They're like, whoa, things in my life are really shifting in a way that I'm surprised by. And how I feel about my life is totally changing. Like, whoa, that's amazing, right? So the thing is, there's a shift that happens. Because you start to realize that mundane thing isn't really the thing. You know what I mean? It's actually, yes, it's important. And you want your physical life to mirror and be at the highest resonance possible. And you realize that that growth on spirit level is where it's at, right? You realize that the higher in resonance you become, your physical reality starts to shift because it's a reflection of because of your frequency resonance. And then it becomes like, well, what's possible then? Right? Just like you said, the unknown becomes exciting. It's not like, oh crap, what's possible? It's more like, oh my God, what is possible? Like, what's the potential here? And that is what's exciting. So the thing about frequency work is like, again, this is all about free will. So if you want to stop whenever, like if you get the partner that you want and you're done, that's fine. Right? No one's going to say you got to keep going. But people who find this really exciting are the ones who want the potential. They're like, what is possible as embodiment, as a human? And as our consciousness rises, what can we do? You know, not just ourselves, but in a collective, which is really exciting.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point. As you're going along, you start to notice that your life is, like you said, a direct reflection of your spirit. So why not enhance the spirit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that actually brings us to the next question here. Can you ever become obsessed with frequency work?
You kind of can, especially at the beginning. I mean, I did. When I first heard it, I knew something was different about it. Okay, and I was very skeptical. So I'm open, right? But I'm skeptical because there's a lot of people out there who say they can do a lot of stuff.
Yes.
And I'm just like, no, I can't. Right? Or whatever, right? It's just,
or they don't own up to it. They don't live up to it.
Yes, exactly. Or they don't act in integrity with what they're saying. Or there's like shenanigans going on, or fishy and it feels weird, or their energy, they're saying one thing, but who they are, you're just like, ew. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot of that. So what I would say is that I've been always open and skeptical. And when I first heard, when I first experienced frequency work, I actually didn't feel a lot. Like I don't know how my feeling sense didn't go off. But when it finished, that first, like the first, like equivalent to a GFC that I listened to, I was like, something's changed and I don't know what it is. And then I listened to something else. And then I listened to something else. And then I was just like, okay, no, this is the thing I've been looking for. So for me, it did become obsessive for a while because I just knew that there was so much crap that I had to get rid of. It was like so heavy. It was like I was pulling on this like endless noodle, you know what I mean? Like a bowl of spaghetti. And I was just kind of like pulling, right? And I was just like, I want this off. Like, I don't want this anymore. I'm like, I don't want to have this experience anymore. So for me personally, I put myself into as much frequency work as possible. That was my response to it. Because I was just like, for me, I know this is the way. Okay. And I tried a whole bunch of different things, right? Which led me to frequency work, actually. But so can you get obsessed with it? Yes. But it's not like, to me, I want to distinguish between an addiction and an obsession. So to me, it's not an addiction because honestly, you may feel like you need it to ascend. You don't. I mean, you can do it in any number of ways, right? The awakening can happen in any number of ways. It doesn't have to be just through this modality. I've never said that frequency work is the only way. For me, frequency work was the fastest way, the most efficient way, the most complete way, the most precise for me. That's what I liked about it. So did I become obsessed with it? Yes, because I was just like, this is like really powerful for me. Okay. But I wasn't addicted to it because in the sense that I also started to gain my own sense of like strength. I was like, my soul's journey is going to be my soul's journey. And so however things come in to help me awaken, I just trust that it's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So I don't need this thing, but I really like it because I feel all those things I just mentioned before. So yes, it's possible to get obsessed. And I don't know. I think that if you're really being mindful of your journey and you're in truly frequency work, you recognize your own power, your own sovereignty, your own free will, right? That's really important. I talk about this a lot. So even confirming the removal of the pattern is an exercise of that sovereignty. And so once you cultivate that, addiction doesn't come into play. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you now are sovereign, right? You're not hooked on something. You're like, no, I can back out of this if I want to because I'm strong enough.
Yeah, that's a key point. So you really can't become obsessed if you're doing it in an empowered space.
Yeah. So you can become obsessed with it, but you won't become addicted to it. That's what I mean.
There you go. Yeah. And I'm sure that can shift. Like you might be really obsessed in the beginning or go through phases or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Like anything. Like,
totally. Yeah. Or like, I used to do this even with like a new song that would come out. If I really loved a song, I would like play it all the time because I really liked it. It's kind of similar, you know?
Yeah.
And I would say like, you're correct. There's phases, right? So there's moments especially at the beginning of our journey where we did it all the time. And then you tip to a certain point and then you don't need it as much. So that's perfect.
Yeah.